Losing a lot of gunfights? There may be something missing from your play that gives you an edge over your opponents. In this video, we're going to look at some gunfight tactics in Warzone 2 and when and where to use them. I'm Silver Bullet, and this is Bullet Points. Before we get into tactics, let's go over the fundamentals. First, should you even be in the gunfight? Sometimes retreating is the best option, and you'll see even the best players in the world backing off when the situation calls for it. This is most likely going to be when multiple enemies are targeting you at the same time, but it may also be necessary when you're caught unaware, or when you just know you're outclassed. In these situations, it's best to bug out and let someone else take care of the dirty work. You're trying to win the game after all. Also, you need to know that movement is king. Due to the physical limitations of this interconnected world we call the internet, first-person shooters like Warzone are always going to give the advantage to the player who is moving the fastest. This is commonly referred to as peeker's advantage, and I won't get into the technical details of why this happens. Just know that a moving player will see a stationary player before the stationary player sees them. This is most evident around corners, so in a gunfight it's best to keep moving. And finally, look at your target. I know this sounds obvious, but the player who wins the gunfight is almost certainly the player who spends the most time pointed towards their opponent. Losing sight of your enemy can turn the tables in their favor, so you need to minimize the time spent looking in any other direction. A helpful way of doing this is to pretend like you can see through walls. Yes, pretend you're a wall hacker, and move from cover to cover while relentlessly keeping your gun aimed at the enemy player. Lateral movement should include constant glances toward your opponent so that you can keep tabs on them and so you never miss the opportunity to land shots. Now on to some tactics. The most basic tip for a gunfight is to know where the enemy is at all times. Besides keeping your gun trained on them as much as possible, the simplest way to do that is by keeping them live pinged. Make it a habit to ping them before you even start shooting, and do it as often as possible throughout the engagement. Not only does this let you know where the enemy player is after you lose sight of them, it lets your teammates know so that they can put more guns on them and swing the odds in your favor. In a similar vein, if you find yourself having to apply armor plates or reload a slow gun, you're better off doing so behind some cover. In doing so, however, you'll lose sight of the enemy player. Instead, take advantage of the fact that you can move around in these situations. Strafe back and forth from your cover while you're getting reset, just enough so that you can keep an eye on the other player. In moving from cover to cover or out in the open, you present an enticing target. You can minimize this with a new mechanic introduced in Warzone 2, the Dolphin Dive. The Dolphin Dive makes you go prone in midair and fall to the ground. During this action, you're basically impossible to hit. It also covers a decent bit of ground in the direction you're running, so it really doesn't slow down your overall movement. Similar to the plate peek is the shoot peek. It's the same idea. You're going to be bouncing in and out of some piece of cover, only this time you'll be shooting the whole time. This is really easy if you follow the earlier technique of pretending like you can see through walls. You're firing the gun at the target the whole time, even when you're behind cover or even when they're behind cover. Sure, you're going to waste some ammo by hitting whatever obstruction is between you, but you'll make up for it in accuracy. The element of surprise cannot be understated in this game. Sometimes simply showing up unexpectedly can win you the fight. Try this when you're being chased. When you round a corner, turn back toward your opponent and jump back into view while laying on the trigger. Peeker's advantage and sheer surprise will give you decent odds in this scenario. Similarly, your opponent will expect you to retreat after getting shots on you, so why not take advantage of that? Instead of taking cover after getting hit, advance toward them, maybe using a different line of sight. Known as the ego Chall, this tactic requires some impeccable aim, but it's often the only way to win a gunfight, especially when the enemy player is aggressive. Lastly, consider carrying smoke grenades in your tactical slot. You'll be glad you did when your only way out of a sticky situation is to literally disappear. If you feel you're about to go down, pop smoke on yourself. This can take quite a bit of getting used to, so practice by tossing a smoke anytime you take damage. The more moves you can throw at an opponent, the more likely you are to win a gunfight, so start using these tactics to improve your game. Some tactics are more difficult than others, so start with the easy ones. Practice one maneuver at a time until it becomes muscle memory. I recommend practicing in the faster paced modes like Resurgence or Modern Warfare Multiplayer to get more reps in. As always, I enjoy feedback, so reach out in the comments with any questions or suggestions. Let me know if you like using these tactics or if you have some that weren't mentioned here. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more bullet points content. Y'all take care.